YouTube, what's going on, man? It's Father Dark, and today with this video, I want to do something a little bit different. There's something that I was just personally kind of wondering about and curious about, so I thought that I would just kind of share with you guys what I've learned so far. Plus, there's some really interesting stuff going on in the Marvel Rivals comic book. Now, I will say that I will be talking about spoilers for the latest issue of the Marvel Rivals comic book, so if you are reading that and you haven't got there yet, probably just don't want to watch toward the end of the video. I will give the spoiler warning again, but if you're somebody who is just kind of like going here and there and watching videos and stuff about it, so you're not as concerned with that, you can keep watching. Nonetheless, though, the whole thing with Ultron has always been really interesting to me in regards to Marvel Rival and how they're going to do like their approach with him. Because like while we do have like villains in the game, they're more kind of like anti-heroes. Like you think about like Magneto and stuff like that, Venom. They're people that have always kind of like teetered that line, but they're not, like, in my opinion, straight up just actual villains. I mean, yeah, I'm sure some people's iterations of them have made them straight up villains, but eventually they've all kind of come to the light, or they've had, like I said, like mostly just like anti-hero moments and stuff. But Ultron is kind of different from that. Ultron has not been the kind of guy who's going to like work on a team with the Avengers and stuff. He's just a straight up outright villain. So I've been very, very curious in regards to like how they're gonna bring him into the story and make that make sense at all. But we actually have some stuff now that's kind of like letting us know what's going on. So actually, like back in one of the comic panels, and I'll back out really quick so you can see which one it is right here. It's a Lesser Evil, and it's the one that has a picture of Tony Stark right here. You can see he's got Ultron like plugged into him. But I'm just gonna read this really quick for you all. If you haven't read it for yourself, if you have, you can skip probably about 2 minutes ahead. So it says, fun fact: the mutants built themselves a resurrection machine and didn't bother to tell anyone. Not so fun fact, Ultron managed to hack into Cerebro's resurrection protocols and brought himself back from the dead after we stopped his invasion of Krakoa. To make matters worse, the mechanical maniac stole Cerebro and jetted off to the mutant planet Araco. That's Mars to you and me. And just FYI, that's the next planet, the next map that we're going to be getting. So that totally makes sense. So he can reboot his plans for total universal domination. Not exactly what I'd call a win. So you're probably asking, Tony, what do we do about Ultron? Or maybe should we call him Xtron now? And my answer is simple. We turn him against himself. See, the reason Ultron was able to outsmart all of us, including me, one of the most brilliant minds on the planet, is because none of us has his level of pure processing power. He's always a million steps ahead, considering every eventuality. So if we want to actually take him down, we're going to need someone on our side who can think as fast as he does. And let me tell you, there aren't a whole lot of options out there, but fate might actually be on our side for once. When the X-Men terminated Ultron's functions, he abandoned his original form for something better, right? That means he left behind a lifeless but extremely advanced mechanical shell. I consider linking up to Ultron's discarded body and controlling it remotely, but that isn't what we need. That would essentially just be another guy in a suit, and we've already got the best one of those there is. Next, I thought of downloading Friday into Ultron's husk and letting her take it for a spin. But if something went wrong and he managed to corrupt her systems, all of Stark Industries' secrets would be his to use. And I've got a feeling that he used them against us. So that left me with one choice: rebooting the original Ultron and hoping for the best. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? Yeah, that's what Reed told me, and T'Challa, and Peter, and pretty much everyone else. But don't worry, I'm not completely reckless. I'll be putting safeguards in place, and they should hold for a while. That means until Ultron can figure out how to override them, he'll be on our side, mostly. So we'd probably better make the best of whatever time we have. Who knows? Maybe he'll see his other, more evolved self as a threat to his prime directive and try to wipe out the competition. That'd be swell. And if he happens to identify and eliminate any other potential problems along the way, like, say, that other guy in the metal mask who seems weirdly focused on getting his hands on Krakoa's supply of Chronovium, then even better. Sure, this could all backfire completely and horrible, and we could end up Ultron's techno-organic slaves. But have you got any better ideas? Didn't think so. So step aside. Tony Stark's got work to do. Okay, so that right there, like, pretty much explains everything for us right there in regards to how this is going to make sense getting Ultron. So anybody who is familiar with Ultron's backstory, first I just want to say that too, that in the comic books, Ultron is actually created by Hank Pym. And I didn't realize this until just a moment ago when I was reading something else, but Hank Pym exists in this universe, and I don't know if he exists anymore because, you know, they're kind of like bringing people from different universes. Maybe Ultron took Hank Pym out at one point, or he still exists, or whatever the case is. But he does exist, and he is actually the person that created him. And for those who don't know, Hank Pym is actually Ant-Man. So And that's what happened originally in the comic books. But a lot of people only know Ultron from the MCU. There's a lot of people that don't really keep up with comic books, and they only know his like MCU origin. And that timeline and those stories. Tony Stark was the one that created Ultron. So, but they're not really following the MCU in regards to stories. They're sticking a little bit closer to the comics, even though this is their own thing and they kind of do their own story. So, like I was saying, Ultron, the original Ultron, we see it in that cutscene on the latest map that we have. We see how Wolverine just comes out of the cut, pretty much just decapitates him, and when his head goes flying off, I think that's when he connects with Cerebro. I could be wrong, but at some point he connects with Cerebro and he creates like this, like they were calling him in this little page here, Extron, or call him Super Ultron, Mega Ultron, whatever you want to call him. Nonetheless, though, he's an evolved version of the one that originally comes to Krakoa, and like I said, he's more than likely using creating copies of his brain to upload so that if he does get deleted, he can just, because that would just make sense to me. He's just information. So why not just create multiple copies of yourself, or have like a base that you kind of have as like your main base where you have your main brain and stuff. And then you can use these other shells. Nonetheless, the point that I'm making is that the Ultron that we're getting is not going to be the same Ultron. This is going to be one that Tony Stark takes and that he basically modifies and tries to make a little more friendly, like the title says, a lesser evil. And because this Ultron is not a joke. He's not messing around. He's actually out here not playing games. And this is the part where I'm going to say that if you're caring about the Marvel Rivals comic books and you're reading them yourself, I would recommend that you stop listening at this point, or maybe save the video until after you've watched it in the save later or something like, or after you read the comic and come back to it. So in the latest issue of the comic, they're having their fight and stuff like that, Ultron and the X-Men and some of the Avengers and stuff, different characters from the game. And at one point, Magic goes to like attack Ultron, basically saying like, listen, I'm about to get you up out of here permanently. And Ultron just turns around and grabs her and pretty much just like snaps her neck, like just straight up right then and there. But what's crazy about it is that the scene is like, it happens so quick. He grabs her out of midair while she's trying to come in and hit him with a sword, and he grabs her, snaps her neck, and then everybody's just kind of like, oh no, but not really. It didn't really seem that serious. And the reason why is because Rocket's his revive beacon that he has, I forget exactly what it's called in the game. I think it's BRB or whatever it's called. Anyway, his revive beacon, it actually is canon. So like that actually exists, and it's I didn't know this at the time, but you can actually see in the game's lore that exists because he did a team up with Adam Warlock using like his power and stuff like that, or some of his abilities to be able to make the technology where he can revive people. So yeah, Magic just ends up literally getting revived not even like a few seconds later, just like she would in the game, and ends up coming back and decapitating him again. But clearly that's not the only Ultron, right? Like I said, there's clearly one that, like they say in the lore, that has went back to the other planet that we're going to be getting, the other map that we'll be getting. And like I said, that makes a lot more sense, that there's going to be a main Ultron that is the main villain, and then the Ultron that we're getting is going to be one that's modified, which would make sense as to why he doesn't mind like helping us. But even with some of the voice lines, it seems like he still has like that, I'm the one above all type of like mindset in regards to, I'm Ultron, Alpha and Omega type deal, but it's like, I'll help you peasants, while it suits me or whatever the case is. So it seems like he still has like a little bit of his old mindset and stuff there. But at the same time, though, he's not going to be nearly as evil as the main Ultron that just is grabbing magics out of the air and just, giving them the old, So, but what I think is interesting about that, though, is the fact that he was to a point to where he was able to take out Magic like it was nothing. He didn't even blink an eye. So I'm wondering, like, do you guys think that when Ultron comes out that he's going to be absolutely just broken? Because if you think about it, when Emma came out, she's a tank, but like, what do you really do against Emma? Emma is like the one-off counter to a lot of stuff, like a lot of different stuff. And she completely makes you play differently. As somebody who didn't start playing Emma when she first came out, because I don't really like having to fight over people or taking her, and then a bunch of people want to leave the lobby because, I want to play Emma. So, I waited until not that long ago to play her. But trying to play like any other tank against Emma is just very irritating because her grab is just ridiculous. You can't even ult near her and stuff like that. When I say near, I mean like within like 20 feet, because she's going to lunge at you with those thighs and just grab you straight out of the air. So it wouldn't be a surprise to me if Ultron comes out and people are thinking like, oh, well, he's just going to be a healer. He's not going to be that broken. I don't know, man. He might be like new meta, and even with him being a healer, which I think is really interesting. And I think there's a reason why they specifically put that out like as the the last issue that we have currently, and seeing how he just without zero hesitation and like I said, without even breaking a sweat, was able to just take magic out. So because these comics are following pretty closely to what's going on in the game, like we're actually using them to be able to know, for example, with the Squirrel Girl bathing suit skin that just came out, and the Rocket Raccoon and different ones and stuff that we've seen. Same thing with Namor and whatever the other ones that have come out recently. We've actually been able to see those in the comic books before they've come out in the game, and it's following, like I said, extremely closely, if not exactly, with what's going on as far as like lore and stuff like that in the game. So I don't know, but let me know in the comments what you all think. I found it really interesting. Like I said too, I think I had brought up before as well. I was talking about how that kind of correlates to the MCU, but I kind of got sidetracked. In the MCU, like I said, we all know that like Tony Stark had created Ultron, and then Ultron goes, he gets on the internet for 5 seconds and he's like, you know what, I think I should just delete all this stuff, like meaning the planet. And once he does that, he ends up trying to make a body for himself using not Ultron, but Vision. And Vision he wasn't supposed to be his own person at first. Ultron was using that as an upgraded body, all right? And it ended up being that they ended up taking the body away, and the Avengers ended up making Ultron. And he was his own thing. But that's kind of how I see what's going on here, right? Instead of them adding Ultron into the game, I'm sorry, not Ultron, but Vision into the game, they're just kind of like, okay, we'll take an old version of Ultron and make kind of like a semi-good version that helps us out, as much as he can, and then we'll go against the actual Ultron, or Xtron as they're calling him, and fight him. So that way they still have like the main seasonal villain, and hopefully they just don't like just completely get rid of him the way that they did in the MCU. Hopefully they keep using him, because it really irritates me when you have an AI that can literally make like infinite copies of himself, and they're like, oh, we finally got the main one. We took him out, it's over. But like I said though, let me know in the comments what you all think, what your thoughts are on Ultron, and what you think is going to happen. Do you think he's going to be broken, overpowered? Do you think he's just going to be meh, whatever? Do you think that the leak abilities that we've been seeing since back all the way in December when his abilities leaked, do you think that those are actually still going to be the same ones? Or maybe that's why they waited to release them, is because they wanted to kind of modify and change some stuff. Just let me know in the comments. I love hearing from you guys and what your thoughts or opinions are. But like I said, I just wanted to talk about this because I thought it was really interesting. I've been wondering for a while now how exactly they were going to bring Ultron in and make it make sense in regards to having a villain be on a team with a bunch of superheroes and stuff. That just didn't make any sense to me. So, but yeah, that's all I got for this video. I'm gonna wrap it up. It's Father Dark, and I appreciate you all for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.